Trump entered the hearing room expecting just another Monday, a predictable parade of talking points, rebuttals, and polite applause. But the moment he stepped into room 2141 of the Rayburn House office building, the air felt different, heavy, expectant, as if the walls themselves were bracing for impact. It was late September, and the nation's attention was laser-focused on Washington. Every cable network was live. Red banners flashed across screens, phones were up, microphones were hot. The President of the United States, still serving his second term, was about to defend the most divisive executive order of his administration. One aimed at stripping federal funds from sanctuary cities and curbing birthright protections. At the far end of the row sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a burnt orange blazer, pen resting gently against her chin. Her face unreadable calm, not the calm of someone unbothered, but the calm of someone prepared. She wasn't here to perform. She was here to strike. Around her, staffers buzzed with last-minute details. Aides whispered. But Crockett didn't flinch. She waited. Patiently. Like a chess player ready for her opponent's first mistake. Trump arrived 10 minutes late, trailed by Secret Service and a cadre of tense advisors. Navy suit, red tie, a face that tried to wear indifference, but cameras don't miss what the eyes betray. The tight jaw, the rush in his step, the way his hands fidgeted just beneath the table. The chair gavelled the room to order. "Mr. President, thank you for appearing today." Trump leaned into the mic, his voice low and performative. "Glad to be here. I think we're going to clear some things up today. Lot of lies out there, lot of dishonest people." A ripple passed through the gallery. Reporters shifted, pens readied, but the first round of questioning was procedural, legalese, policy speak, careful jabs wrapped in civility. Trump deflected, redirected, played his usual game. Sound bites for his base. Red meat for the headlines. Then came Representative Jasmine Crockett. When her name was called, she didn't rush. She adjusted the mic slowly, looked directly at the president, and spoke without glancing at a single note. "Mr. President," Crockett began, her voice steady and clear, "you've repeatedly said this executive order is about a national security." Trump gave a practiced nod. "That's right, it's about protecting the American people." "All of them?" she asked, tilting her head ever so slightly. He didn't miss a beat. "Every single one." A pause. Then Crockett leaned forward, her tone sharp but composed. "Then why does your order disproportionately affect immigrant communities? Communities that statistically contribute more to this country's infrastructure, economy, and culture than they take from it? And more to the point, why did your own Department of Justice flag Section 12 as potentially unconstitutional?" Trump's smirk twitched. He shifted in his chair, then leaned in, the bravado returning. "I expected better, Congresswoman. This is recycled nonsense from the fake media. I don't answer to opinions, I answer to results." The room stilled. Crockett didn't blink. She let the silence stretch a beat too long, just enough to make the president visibly uncomfortable. Then she spoke, barely above a whisper. "With all due respect, Mr. President, results don't come at the expense of the truth." A low murmur rippled through the chamber. One of Trump's aides stiffened behind him. The president's face flickered, just for a moment. But it was enough. "Let's talk about truth," Crockett continued, unfazed. "Let's be honest about what this hearing is really about." Trump adjusted his tie. The room held its breath. Crockett wasn't here to spar over policy. She was here to challenge the man behind the podium, and she had come armed. Without breaking eye contact, she slid a manila folder from the stack in front of her and tapped it once quietly. You've claimed over and over that your administration is unified, that your leadership is stable, and that your family is strong. But what I have here, she tapped again, are internal communications, not from the press, not from critics, but from your own senior aides. A hush fell like a curtain. Cameras clicked into position. Reporters leaned forward. These emails discussed the First Lady's extended absences from the White House. Separate residences, private travel, Secret Service logs confirming she spent less than 20 days in D.C. over the past 3 months. Trump scoffed loudly. So now it's about my marriage, he snapped. Is this Congress or Real Housewives of Washington? Some in the room chuckled nervously. Crockett did not. The American public, she said, deserves to know whether what you sell them is real or just another performance propped up by stage lighting and a PR team. For the first time, Trump didn't respond. He sat back in his chair, jaw clenched. Crockett pressed on. You present policies as reflections of your core values. But if those values are fractured behind the scenes, if your own household is a fabrication, how can the public trust your judgment? Trump's voice broke through, sharp and defensive. That's none of your damn business. Crockett didn't hesitate. You made it our business, Mr. President. When you campaigned on family values, when you held up your marriage as proof of your strength, the temperature in the room dropped. Crockett leaned in. And I know what your staff is saying behind your back. That was the blow. Trump slammed his palm on the table. The sound cracked across the room. You're disgusting, he barked. Still, Crockett's voice remained level. Integrity, she said, is exactly what I'm talking about. The gallery was silent now. Not the kind of silence born from boredom, but from breathless anticipation. The kind that stretches when something irreversible is about to happen. I'm not finished, Crockett said, calm as ever, flipping to the next page in her folder. This isn't just about where the First Lady sleeps. It's about the growing pattern of secrecy surrounding your administration, and the lengths to which you've gone to keep the American public in the dark. Trump muttered something under his breath, too low for the mic, but loud enough to be noticed. His aides exchanged glances. Crockett didn't flinch. In sworn testimony earlier this year, she continued, a former aide mentioned, unprompted, your increasing reliance on a small inner circle. They described you as irritable, paranoid, refusing routine health checks. False, Trump snapped. A lie, all of it. Then perhaps you can explain, Crockett countered, her tone sharpening, why 3 different White House aides confirmed to investigators that you've required private on-call medical staff during international trips, something no other president has demanded so consistently. Or why those same aides referenced, off the record, the presence of personal garments, not for fashion, but for function. Gasps, audible now. A journalist whispered, "Oh my God." Trump's lips parted, but no sound followed. His face flushed, his hands gripped the table. This is shameful, he barked finally. You're out of line. You're the president, Crockett replied, locking eyes. Every line you cross affects 330 million people. You don't get to hide behind that desk anymore. The wound had been opened. Now Crockett twisted the blade. Not with volume, not with theatrics, but with surgical precision. In April, she said, glancing at her folder, not for show, but for accuracy. Your administration postponed a summit in Brussels, officially due to security concerns, but internal memos cited something else. Presidential garment complications. I'd like clarification on what that means. Trump said nothing. She waited. Do you deny that medical staff were ordered to stay on overnight alert following an unspecified incident aboard Air Force One during your return flight? Silence. Crockett continued, unwavering. 2 former stewards from that flight gave sworn statements. They claim a medical team was summoned for an emergency. The incident was cleaned up discreetly, no formal documentation, on orders from your chief of staff. Trump's complexion was no longer angry red. It was blotchy, uneven, the kind of color that signals not rage, but panic. I won't sit here and entertain sick lies from sick people, he growled, voice raw. You're a fraud. You came here to humiliate the presidency. No, Mr. President, Crockett replied coolly. I came here to protect it. The gallery shifted. Something in the room cracked. Not a sound, but a feeling, like gravity had shifted. Representative Biza, seated 2 chairs away, tried to speak. Crockett raised a single finger, not to silence him, but to hold her space. Let me be clear, she said. This isn't mockery. It's not about personal health. It's about the cover-up, the deflection, the performance. If there's a condition, you're entitled to privacy, but not when that privacy is used as a shield to lie to the American people. Trump slammed the table again. Lies! All of it. You don't deserve this room. Crockett didn't even blink. You've built your image on humiliating others, Mr. President, from news anchors to Gold Star families. But the moment someone holds a mirror to your face, you call it an ambush. Trump turned to the chair. She's out of order. The chair, flipping through his binder without lifting his head, muttered, Representative Crockett has the floor. She may continue. That sealed it. Trump sagged slightly in his chair. The cameras were still rolling, and for once he wasn't driving the story. He was in the story, and not in the way he wanted. Trump's silence didn't last. With his jaw clenched and voice tightening, he muttered something into the mic. Inaudible at first, but unmistakably bitter. Representative Biza attempted to shift the discussion toward border infrastructure. Trump cut him off with a sharp wave. Can we not pretend nothing just happened? His voice was high-pitched now, strained from earlier shouting. I come here in good faith and get ambushed with tabloid garbage. Hearsay and rumors twisted into some grotesque hit job. The chair leaned forward. Mr. President, you are free to respond. No, I'm not responding. I'm exposing this circus. Trump barked, rising halfway from his chair. This woman, this angry little woman, thinks she's going to make a name off me? My wife? My health? What is this? A beat of silence. Angry little woman. It echoed. Crockett didn't react, not with words, not with a change in posture. Her pen tapped gently against her notepad, but the room reacted, eyes widened. Someone in the gallery muttered, Did he really just say that? Let the record show, Crockett said quietly, that the President of the United States just used misogynistic language against a sitting member of Congress. Oh, here we go, Trump snapped, voice cracking. Now I'm the villain, huh? Set up on live TV and I'm supposed to just take it? He turned again to the committee chair. You're letting them smear me with whatever they want. This is how we run the government now. I think the American people can decide what they believe, Crockett replied, her tone cool, precise. That did it. Trump stood. His chair screeched behind him. You know what? Screw this hearing. It's a joke. All of you, you're a joke. You're not getting another word out of me. His legal team flinched. An aide behind him stood halfway, unsure whether to intervene or retreat. "Sir," the chair warned, "you are under obligation to answer questions before the—" "Oh, now it's an obligation," Trump roared. Where was that energy when she was throwing conspiracy trash at me? Where were the rules then? Secret Service agents edged closer. One whispered, "Mr. President, please sit." "No!" Trump barked, brushing the agent away. "I'm not letting them do this. I rebuilt this country, I made it strong, and now I'm being humiliated with diapers on live TV?" The word diapers hung in the air. It echoed. It landed. Even his own party froze. No one knew where to look. Crockett didn't speak. She didn't need to. Trump glared directly at her. "You should be ashamed," he spat. "Attacking a man's family, his dignity? There's no coming back from that." Crockett finally responded, so quietly the microphones nearly missed it. "You can't lose what you gave away yourself." The room stopped. Dead still. Even Biza, who had been nervously clicking his pen all morning, stopped. Trump stood there, trembling, realizing too late that the cameras were still rolling, still zoomed, still live, and walking out now would only look worse. So, with a forced exhale, he sat back down, adjusted the mic, cleared his throat. "Let's move on," he said flatly. But no one moved on, not really. What happened in room 2141 didn't stay there. By the time the hearing wrapped, the internet had already exploded. Clips of the exchange hit social media before Trump even left his seat. CNN broke into a breaking news panel. MSNBC looped Crockett's final line on repeat. Fox News tried to redirect, focusing on the immigration debate, but even they couldn't look away. Within 20 minutes, TikTok was flooded. Edits, reactions, memes. The hashtag #Crockett, claps back, was trending globally before noon. But this wasn't just viral, it was visceral. One creator stitched Crockett's calm delivery over the theme from Gladiator, calling her the woman who didn't need a sword to win the battle. On Twitter, users dissected her body language like it was Super Bowl footage. A political podcaster posted, "No yelling, no insults, just facts." Jasmine Crockett just redefined how power gets checked. On YouTube, compilations bloomed. Crockett versus Trump reactions side by side. One popular creator paused on Trump's outburst. You know someone's losing the argument when they stop answering and start yelling. But the power wasn't in the flash, it was in the silence, in the restraint, in the composure. Crockett hadn't raised her voice, hadn't thrown a punch, and yet somehow she had drawn blood. Parents watched with their children, teachers played the clip in classrooms, veterans called into radio shows, many saying the same thing. "I've never seen anyone confront him like that," and win without shouting. Thousands of calls poured into Crockett's office. Some hateful, sure, but most were messages of thanks from nurses, college students, retired postal workers. People who had never heard her name until that morning. Her office released just one statement: integrity doesn't need volume. Truth doesn't need theatrics. The likes hit 7 digits in a day. Trump, however, couldn't stay quiet. Just before midnight, he logged into Truth Social and unleashed a furious post. "Jasmine Crockett is a disgrace to Congress, a nasty, lying, horrible person who twisted facts and attacked my family on national TV. America saw through it. Fake, phony." It was reposted, mocked, screenshot, dismantled. But something had shifted. Where once his words would have ignited a loyal firestorm, now the top comments quoted her. "You can't lose what you gave away yourself." Every line affects 330 million people. The contrast was undeniable. Even late-night comedians didn't need to write punchlines. "You know it's bad," one host said, "when the guy who used to dominate the news cycle is begging for the remote." Inside the White House, the mood was chaos, wrapped in silence. The next morning, 3 senior officials canceled media appearances without explanation. Clayton Reams, the press secretary known for clinging to his daily briefings like a lifeline, had disappeared from the cameras. In the West Wing, staffers kept their heads down, voices low, phones hidden in pockets. Behind the closed doors of the private dining room off the Oval Office, Trump sat alone. No aides, no advisors, just the television and the echo of Crockett's voice on every channel. They played the hearing on loop. Slow-motion replays of him slamming the table. Crockett's line. "You can't lose what you gave away yourself." Flashing across the screen like a verdict. Trump snapped at no one in particular. "They're looping it like it's a gif, like I'm a joke." Outside the door, his chief of staff, Nolan Crane, hovered uncertainly. "Sir," he said finally, stepping in. "Senator Whitlow's on line 1. She wants to discuss next week's floor vote strategy." Trump didn't even look up. "Tell her to call Ivanka if she wants small talk." Crane stood his ground. "She says donors are worried. They think if we don't control the narrative fast, this could snowball." Trump finally turned, eyes bloodshot. "I am the damn narrative." But even he didn't sound like he believed it anymore. Elsewhere in the East Wing, Melania had gone quiet. Her staff canceled a planned appearance at the Smithsonian, citing schedule conflicts. When a reporter asked if she had any response to Crockett's claims, her spokesperson said only, "No comment today." In the comms wing, Reams finally reappeared, shirt wrinkled, tie half loosened, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "We need a pivot," he told the war room. "Focus on the policy, the immigration order. Stay professional. Crockett made it personal. That's our angle." An advisor raised a hand. "And the other stuff? The garments? The health rumors?" Reams sighed. "We don't dignify it. Call it a coordinated smear. Beneath the office, but we don't confirm. Not a single detail." Crane leaned in. "We can't just ignore it. People are tweeting about the president's bathroom habits. It sounds stupid, but this thing has legs." Just then, Trump walked in. Back straight, shoulders squared, rage barely contained. "You want to control the moment?" he barked. "Then find me her moment, a mistake, a skeleton. I want everything you can dig up on Jasmine Crockett." The room froze. Crane swallowed hard. "Sir, we already pulled her file. It's clean. No ethics violations, no scandals, not even a parking ticket." Trump's stare didn't blink. "Everyone's got something." Another pause. The tension hung like a weight on every chest. Reams tried to bring it back to reality. "We've got Senator Musin ready to float a statement about decorum. Say her behavior undermined the dignity of the institution. Networks love that angle. Both sides and all." "Good," Trump muttered. "Give them a reason." But even as they drafted talking points and called in favors, the headlines kept rolling in. One from a conservative columnist in the Arizona Sentinel read, "If Crockett's wrong, prove it. If she's not, face it. But pretending it didn't happen? That's political malpractice." And in the West Wing, aides had stopped whispering if this would last. Now they were asking how long. Because something had changed. Crockett wasn't just viral, she was credible. And credibility, real, calm, undeniable credibility, was harder to fight than any headline. While the West Wing scrambled to smother a wildfire with damp press releases, Jasmine Crockett wasn't hiding. She wasn't behind closed doors or dodging cameras. She was walking straight into the eye of the storm, unshaken. Just 48 hours after the hearing, she stepped onto a small stage in Columbus, Ohio. No teleprompters, no flashing lights. Just a folding chair, a handheld mic, and an auditorium packed beyond capacity. Some in the crowd clapped. Some rose to their feet. A few held up handmade signs. Truth needs a voice. You held the line. She gave a polite nod and gestured for quiet. I'm not here to celebrate, she began. I didn't go into that hearing to make headlines. I went in with questions. Questions the American public deserve to hear answered. And I didn't raise my voice because I didn't need to. The facts spoke loud enough. The room erupted again. That night on The View, she sat between hosts who tried to rattle her. One leaned in eagerly. Did you plan the diaper line? Crockett raised an eyebrow. I didn't make a joke. I asked a question based on corroborated testimony from people with everything to lose and nothing to gain. If people find that funny, maybe they should ask why the truth sounds like satire. She wasn't just defending herself, she was defining herself. Every major outlet wanted her. Podcasts, talk shows, town halls. But Crockett declined over half of the invitations. She chose where to speak carefully. Places where the message wouldn't be buried beneath noise and graphics. One of the most powerful moments came during an NPR interview. The host asked, "What do you think people connected with the most during the hearing?" Crockett paused. I think people are tired of being talked at. Tired of theatrics. They want someone to say what they're thinking, without yelling, without the spin. Just honesty, even if it stings. Listeners flooded the lines afterward, not to argue, not even to ask, just to say thank you. A retired postal worker in Pittsburgh. You reminded me of Barbara Jordan, calm, strong, clear. A teacher in Wichita. My students asked more about civic duty in one class after that hearing than they have all year. But Crockett didn't gloat. She reminded her staff, the spotlight is temporary, the message has to last. Her campaign donations spiked that week, but what mattered more was who was donating. Over 60% were under 35. Many had never contributed to a political campaign before. One comment on her post read, I wasn't planning to donate to anyone, but that hearing made me believe not all politicians are noise. You earned it. In Memphis, a group of local organizers launched a campaign called Speak Like Crockett, encouraging high school students to practice public speaking using footage from the hearing. In Dallas, her hometown, a mural appeared overnight in Deep Ellum. No slogan, no name. Just her face and the quote, every line affects 330 million people. This wasn't a movement yet, but it was something. Behind closed doors, Democratic strategists started whispering, not just about her talent, but her presence. Her ability to cut through the noise without becoming part of it. Maybe not this year, they said, but soon, leadership. But Crockett wasn't chasing titles. In a quiet moment with her chief of staff, she made it plain. I didn't come to Congress to be a star. I came to be a mirror. If people don't like what they see when I hold it up, that's not my problem. That's the country's. But in Washington, power rarely forgives those who challenge it publicly. And humiliating the president on live television wasn't something the old guard was going to let slide. It started quietly. Anonymous sources began whispering to friendly media outlets. There are concerns about Crockett's conduct. Did she violate committee decorum? No evidence, no citations. Just seeds carefully planted. By Saturday, it went national. Representative Clyde Henshaw of Arkansas, a veteran Republican known for weaponizing procedure, filed a formal complaint on the House floor. The resolution called for censure, accusing Crockett of demeaning the dignity of the presidency and personal attacks unbecoming of a member of Congress. Cable news lit up instantly. Conservative anchors spun it as a righteous stand for institutional respect. One pundit called her a disgrace in a power suit. But this wasn't 2003. The country had changed. By Sunday morning, Crockett stepped up to the podium in her Dallas district office. The room was small, cramped with reporters, cameras, and constituents who could barely fit through the door. She didn't read a statement. She didn't wave flags or pose for effect. She just looked at the room and started talking. "This censure isn't about civility," she said. "It's about control. I didn't threaten. I didn't yell. I asked questions that made powerful people uncomfortable. And now they want to punish me for doing my job." Her voice didn't rise. Her eyes didn't waver. A local reporter shouted from the back, "Do you regret bringing up his marriage? Or the health issues?" Crockett looked straight at him. If the president doesn't want people questioning his honesty, maybe he should stop lying. If he doesn't want people questioning his health, maybe he should stop hiding it. That clip aired within the hour, on every major channel. Even the ones who'd dodged the story the week before played it this time. Because Crockett wasn't just defending herself, she was dismantling the game. Still, the resolution moved forward. By Monday, the censure vote hit the House floor. Pundits predicted a close outcome. The final tally, 214 in favor, 216 against. It failed, barely. The swing came from a handful of moderate Republicans whose inboxes had been flooded with calls and letters over the weekend. One of them, Representative Martin Cordell of Idaho, gave a short statement outside the Capitol. "I didn't like how she said it, but I respect that she said it and that she said it without shouting." Crockett didn't celebrate. She left the chamber with the same calm stride she'd entered it with. Back in her office, a senior advisor asked, "Do you want to release a statement?" She shook her head. "Let them wear it. They brought it to the floor, and the people rejected it. That's the statement." But even as Congress tried to bury her in process, Crockett's message had taken root. The censure failed, but something far bigger had begun. Town halls started filling to capacity. In Tulsa, a line wrapped around the block for a local civic event where Crockett was scheduled to speak. Inside, a teenage girl stood during the Q&A and asked, her voice trembling, "You made me believe I could speak up, even when I am the only one in the room who looks like me." Crockett didn't cry. She didn't pause for applause. She stepped off the stage, walked to the edge of the platform, and took the girl's hand. "If they don't give you space, take it. If they don't give you the mic, stand closer to it. Never wait for permission to speak the truth." That quote hit newspapers the next morning. Her critics still tried. Op-eds called her too confrontational, too dramatic, not bipartisan enough. But none of it stuck, because people had seen the video. They'd watched her sit still while the President of the United States unraveled. They'd seen the contrast between her stillness and his spectacle, and every attempt to silence her only amplified her voice, not in volume but in reach. She wasn't seeking revenge. She wasn't interested in a victory lap. She was thinking bigger. 1 week after the hearing, Crockett stood alone behind the podium at the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library in Boston. She had been invited to speak at the annual Forum on Leadership and Public Service. The room was quiet, filled with students, veterans, policy analysts, and journalists, still processing what they'd watched unfold on live television just days earlier. They expected fire. She gave them something else, I've had a lot of microphones in front of me this week, she began, and most of them wanted to talk about the moment, how it went viral, what it looked like on TV. But I came here today to talk about what comes after the moment. She paused. We live in a time where it's easier to perform leadership than to practice it. Easier to chase headlines than to tell the truth. And we've begun to confuse attention for impact. No one moved. No one dared cough. Accountability is not an attack. Transparency is not cruelty. Asking questions of the most powerful man in the country doesn't make you disrespectful. It makes you responsible. She told the room about the night after the hearing, how she went home, took off her shoes, and sat on the edge of her bed, not triumphant, just heavy. People kept calling it a win, but it didn't feel like one. It felt like I said what everyone knew, but nobody wanted to admit out loud. And then she took a breath. I didn't enjoy putting the president in that position, but I did it because we've spent too long tiptoeing around dysfunction, too long treating facts like personal attacks, too long fearing that asking questions will be seen as too political. But silence doesn't protect democracy. Truth does. A man in the back row cleared his throat. A woman up front wiped away a tear. I'm not interested in being famous, she said finally. I'm interested in making sure that no kid watching that hearing ever believes that yelling equals courage, and that questions equal disrespect. The applause didn't come until she stepped back. But when it did, it was slow, real. Not for a viral moment, but for the idea that maybe, just maybe, politics could still matter. Later that night, a reporter asked how she was handling the pressure. She smiled gently. Pressure only cracks what's hollow. In the days that followed, Crockett turned down national interviews, primetime specials, and celebrity shout-outs. She chose instead a community radio station in Dayton, Ohio. No lights, no stylists. Just a dusty mic, 2 plastic chairs, and a host with a notepad and a quiet voice. You've become a symbol, the host said, for people tired of the noise. People who just want someone to say what's real. Do you feel that pressure? Crockett paused, then nodded. I don't feel pressure to be a symbol, she said. I feel responsibility to stay human. Symbols don't get tired. People do. She glanced down at her hands, then looked back up. The night after that hearing, I had dinner alone. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to think. Not about the headlines. I thought about the woman who emailed me, said she'd never spoken up at work when her boss crossed the line. But after watching me sit in that room and not back down, she said she found her voice. The host didn't interrupt. He let the silence stretch. Then he asked, if you could say one thing to the president, off the record, no cameras, what would it be? Crockett didn't hesitate. I'd tell him he still has a choice. He can keep performing, keep yelling, keep hiding behind pride. Or he can stop pretending and be honest with the country. It's brutal, but it's freeing. There was no spite in her tone, no heat, just a clarity that comes from having looked power in the eye and not blinking. By the end of that week, she returned to Washington. The media frenzy had cooled, but the shift had remained. Capitol staffers who once walked by without notice now said her name with respect. Constituents approached her in airports, not to praise her, but to ask questions. Real questions about policy, about truth, about leadership. One man at Reagan National handed her a folded piece of paper. It said, "You made silence less comfortable, thank you." And maybe that was the real legacy of the hearing. Not the hashtag, not the outburst, not even the political fallout. It was the reminder, seen by millions in real time, that truth doesn't have to shout to be heard. That strength isn't found in a slammed fist, but in the stillness that refuses to move. That leadership isn't loud, it's clear. So if there's anything to take from Jasmine Crockett's confrontation with the president, it's this. Decency is not weakness. Clarity is not cruelty. And calm truth can shake the room louder than any scream. Now more than ever, America doesn't need more spectacle. It needs more of the kind of courage. If you believe in that, if you believe in integrity that doesn't perform but leads, then subscribe. Because this isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning.